The willow had to fall to help another homecomer through the winter. First, the beaver gets his fill, feasting on the tender new buds of the treetop. Then he carves up the tree into portions, placing branch after branch near the entrance to his castle. Underwater, the branches will stay fresh. Small fish profit from the rest of the tree. Here they can hide from cormorants and herons. There's no need for beavers to build dams along the Danube. There are plenty of ponds and lakes of sufficient size and depth. When the wind turns to a northerly, it brings snow and more. With the north wind, the Danube's winter guests arrive. Hundreds of cormorants spend the winter on the floodplain, drifters along the river, always in search of new fishing grounds. Here, they always find food until the ice cuts them off from the backwaters. All the stagnant waters are now sealed up. Only the main channel is still open, but fishing in the strong current is tedious. Once again set in motion. Remnants of previous floods, megatons of driftwood, rise from the mud. Once the main river spills beyond its banks, everything begins to move. On the water, in the water, underwater, even on the water's edge. The flood is a primeval force. Nothing will stop it. You escape or you die. The river's power is at work, wherever power stations have not stolen it. It's a power that will destroy and recreate again and again and again. The Danube's floodplains are an extremely dynamic habitat, perpetually changing, like any natural riverscape. Across most of Central Europe, however, natural riverscapes are history. As long as this last wild remnant of Austria's wetlands remains untamed, it will harbour ever-changing secrets. The secrets Each new flood chews away banks and shifts channels, metre by metre. The width of the river is now too great to be really grasped, even from the air. The greater part of the flooded area is hidden below the forest canopy. The trees and shrubs of the floodplain suffer such inundations several times a year. They even profit from this. The water keeps competitors away. The flood may have come suddenly, but not at a bad moment. In fact, some inhabitants of the floodplain have been actually waiting for it. They need a flood to reproduce. Flooded meadows are their spawning grounds. As soon as the floodwaters begin to subside and the current slows down, they arrive from all sides in order to mate in the grass. The water will remain in huge puddles for quite some time, long enough, hopefully, for their offspring to mature. Thus the flood creates new life. The carp can only enter and leave the meadows when the water level is high enough. The time window they have to mate is just a few days, and it depends on the weather. In dry years, the carp cannot mate. Before the remnant waters seep away, the carps move back to deeper permanent waters. Missing the right moment means being cornered. When the river rises, getting out fast is crucial. Some are not fast enough. Red deer are powerful swimmers, but currents can be so violent that they stand no chance. The loss of individuals has little effect on the overall wildlife population. And for a wild boar mother raising 5 or 6 youngsters, a flood victim can be a real bonus. The sheer height of fresh gravel banks and the driftwood deposits on them mark the floodwater levels. Between floods, one can take a stroll along the riverbed. In quiet pools among driftwood, the fry of various species is well protected. These are the kindergartens of the Danube. But when the rains fail for a few weeks, these ponds can dry out and become a deadly trap for millions of young fish. Herons, storks and waders can now have an easy meal. Regulated rivers cannot offer such feasts of fish, amphibians and water insects, whatever a bird may want. The tender fare is still alive and fresh. But soon the water gets too low, too warm, and lacks oxygen. Masses of water striders gather on the dying fish. These land bugs have become specialists in exploiting the surface tension of water. Theirs is an absolutely level world. Now these insect hunters turn into scavengers. Still no rain. One or 2 weeks after the flood, the pools are dry. But life has not dried up. Meat flies have laid their eggs on the carcasses. Up to 1,000 eggs per fly, all in a single. During these summer days, billions of other water insects also rise to the surface and leave the water. Caddisflies, stoneflies, mayflies, and mosquitoes. Midsummer, weeks of easy living to be enjoyed before life gets harder again. Morning mists on the waters are the first hint of summer drawing to its end. And when the rough calls of deer echo across the water, summer is over. Their rut sets in around mid-August, earlier than in the Alps. The animals are restive. Tension is building. The stags round up their harems. Even stags who have spent the entire year invisibly in the forest now enter the arena. The strongest stags are powered up, ready for battle. The rut takes place in a small arena. The floodplain forest is really a wilderness island surrounded by cultivated land. There's little room to maneuver. For 4 weeks, the stags give all they have. Then peace returns to the river. Autumn. The nights are now longer than the days, and they're getting frosty. In the mornings, thin ice lies on the water and silence on the land. Both can be shattered in an instant. Trees in the bogs grow fast and high. Black poplars, a rare species elsewhere, stand up to 35 meters tall. They grow in the company of white poplars and white willows. The soft wood of such fallen giants rots away in just a few years. In each stage of their growth and decomposition, these impressive trees provide food and shelter to myriads of organisms. Many animals and plants could not even exist without deadwood, such as mosses, lichen, fungi, certain insects, or the black woodpecker. Deadwood. What an inappropriate term. This mouldy, three-dimensional world contains more life than a living tree. Since the Danube's floodplain has been declared a national park, the forest is allowed to grow practically without human interference. The management only intervenes in order to promote indigenous tree species. Once the river has calmed down after the spring floods and the water level has sunk by several meters, vast gravel banks still uncolonized by trees will surface. Rough gravel like that is good enough for willows and poplars, and for a special guest. The little ringed plover. These ground-nesting birds need a gravelly, moist breeding range. Ideal breeding places like this are only found where the river's flow is unhampered, a rare situation in modern Central Europe. He makes it clear to her. Here, right here is where you should lay your eggs. She is choosy. This is his suggestion number 10. Yes, here. That's right. It's pointless. She's got her own mind. The Danube is really a mountain river with a decline of 40 centimeters per kilometer and a current of up to 3 meters per second. The snow melt in the Alps and storm fronts can cause the river to swell at any time around the year. Apart from the Wachau Valley, this is the Danube's last stretch without a hydroelectric dam. So its bed is free of sand and silt. In the gravelly river bottom, myriads of water insects and other organisms thrive, feeding a great variety of fishes. Vimberbreams and barbels, their bodies, their behavior and their habitat are shaped by the current.